Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG Review. Today we're taking a look at Castles in the Sky, a wargame of flying battleships, which was kindly sent along as an advanced review copy by Osprey Wargames. Now this is from their Wargame series. It's often referred to as the Blue Book series. These are great little, like under 100 page, and relatively inexpensive wargames. I think this one retails for 25 bucks US, 34 Canadian. Or UK $14.99, and they're typically a sort of a miniature agnostic war game. Zone Alpha, of course, is one you've seen me play a million times, and they fill like a very particular niche. And this one is rigid air dirigible warships in a post-H.G. Wells War of the Worlds world. Where instead of just using like inflatables, they've got anti-grav technology, and all of the big battleships that made up the First and Second World Wars, like fleets and navies, instead turn into like a 19th century sort of like thing, and they float in the sky, and you have these insane air wars happening. It's got some familiar mechanics, but also does some kind of fun, unique things. The damage system in particular and combat system is fun, as is the command system and the commander's involvement in the game, and is actually relatively small scaled. It plays with probably, if you're going to use a battleship, you're probably looking at like 5 to 7 models, but it could be as low as like 3 to 4, depending on how many you're going to use. Everything from escorts up to attack craft and aircraft and battleships and cruisers and light cruisers and all that stuff is included in here. And you could either find, so for instance, all of the photograph models in here from Brigade Miniatures. They did the wonderful starships that Mike sent along for me to do A Billion Suns with. And there's, I mean, a million different options for this sort of like weird World War I naval era stuff, and you could spruce it up however you like. I'm sure there's 3D printing stuff out there. I'm sure you could even go super cheap wargaming. My like hyperfixation for the last few months has been the paperclip stuff, the clothespin stuff that everyone's making. There's these insane clothespin Battlefleet Gothic fleets that people are making that look incredible. And yeah, and this is a fun hobby crafting one. There are lists for, I think, 8 or 9 different nations, so the different air navies. The British, it's all the powers of the time. So the British, the French Republic, the German Empire. This is all 19th century. Russian Empire, so it'd be like the Tsarist Russia, Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Kingdom of Italy, still under a royal family, United States of America, the Ottoman Empire still being around, and I think that's it. Yeah, so you're looking at plenty of options sort of for this like weird war, and let's just jump in and take a look at the core mechanics. So what do we got going on here? Sorry, what is the year of this setting? It's by 1914. After the Martian invasion of 1872, the technologies basically allowed things to float, and the world had stabilized. Despite the revolution in technology, the old order still held strong. The great powers had ridden the waves of nationalism and militarism. They were held together by a loose collection of international laws negotiated by the Tsar of Russia at The Hague in 1904. National aerospace was defined and rights of aerial commerce negotiated, the laws of war written. The breaking of these laws would be litigated at the courts of The Hague. However, the great powers quickly used these new rules to nibble at each other and inflame each other. They could deadlock litigation in courts for months, and small conflicts would no longer escalate, however, to total war. Brushfire wars and border skirmishes were the new normal. So basically that's what you're recreating here, is these not massive fleet engagements, but these sort of smaller like sort of proxy wars taking place in the sky. So what do you need? Well, it's going to be models for your airships, a flat space to play, a measuring device in inches, in the measurement units you prefer. Sorry, I shouldn't even say inches. You can play this game in whatever measurements you want. They don't even define it. You can do centimeters or inches, however you like. And everything's defined as, all the ranges are 8, 16, or 24. So it could be really small scale and you're using centimeters, or it could be larger scale and you're using inches. It just doesn't matter. 6-sided dice, preferably in 3 groups of 10 different colors. A method to track your altitude, such as numbered chips, a 10-sided dice, or bits of paper. I'd also recommend that you have something to track damage and friction, which are 2 other sort of concepts in here. Friction is basically mimicking blast markers type thing, which are used in lots of different games to sort of show disruption. So for instance, games like the Warlord series of like Bolt Action or Gates of Antares, of course Battlefleet Gothic, Old Epic. It's basically a disruption representation. And yeah, and so friction was the one, and then damage, it piles up over the course of the engagement phase, and then you remove it all after you make a bunch of rolls, but you need to know how much each ship has at the end of the turn, because it's all resolved simultaneously, a bit like Battletech. And then a roster for your airships that you can write on, a pencil and eraser, chits, tokens, or markers to track various events during the game. I think that probably is the bucket for the ones I just described. Space on the table for the notes to track your ship details, and a detailed set of terrain to fly over. So your game concepts. You are trying to do a 2D, 3D space. So there's lots of ways of doing this. Creative modelers have even done things like little telescoping flying stands for these things, which would be super fun. I saw a really neat one, which was like magnetic dowels, and you would snap in a new one each time you added height. So it's like 1-inch lengths, and each one had like a rare earth magnet on the end. And every time you went up in height, you would like snap a new section into it. Those are really neat. And because you're doing miniature agnostic, there's no right or wrong way to do it. You can either have a dice to track altitude, just between 0 and 9, 0 being landed, 9 being the maximum altitude you can be at for anything in the game, although different ships will have different altitudes that they can reach. And you just need to be able to track it. Measurements in measurement units, you could use inches. Rolling dice, it shows you how to do a D6 or a D3. And then friction, every potential hit causes a friction, and every potential munition hit causes a friction. Every munitions destroyed by point defense causes a friction. When a ship collides, rammed, is boarded, or becomes entangled, it causes a friction, and whenever the rules say to place a friction marker. Friction markers reduce your speed. They don't allow you to take commands, which is from an order pool that you have at the start of the turn. You can't launch munitions, which is to say like attack craft like airplanes and sky torpedoes and stuff. I like that it's sky torpedoes instead of missiles. That's a nice little gimmick. Damage control rolls are reduced by 1, so normally there's a target number of 4+ to repair your critical damage and stuff. In this case, you can't, you would even be able to repair if you had 3 friction on you somehow. And then shooting from a ship with 1 or more friction markers has -1 of their firepower of all their armaments. General rules of thumb, round up. If in doubt regarding line of sight, do what's best for the target ship. Measurement can be made at any time by any player before committing to any action. If it's disputed with the rules, do what's best for the non-active vehicle. The current condition and stats of a warship are always public information. And the most important rules to have fun. There are 3 classes of ship: escort, cruiser, and battleship. Typically, you're not allowed to take more than 1 battleship, any number of cruisers and escorts. Your ship profiles. All right, so now these are fairly familiar to people who've played like naval combat games before. They do look a lot like BFG stat lines from the classic spaceship game by Games Workshop, which does not, in fact, use altitude. So you have your class, your category, which is cruiser. Your I would have done like, I guess class, indefatigable class, and then categories that you were a cruiser. See, I always thought of cruiser as being a class, a class of ship, and then your designation is the thing they call you. So like designation would be indefatigable category, or class would be cruiser. Anyway, the terms here are class and category. Your armor, and that's the dice roll needed to actually hit you or damage you after you've been hit. Your operational cost, your point value. Your speed, minimum of 2, maximum of 5. Your altitude, you can reach a maximum of 8 for this one. You get 1 45-degree turn, and you have a lift of 1, which means you can go up or down in altitude by 1 each turn. You have your armaments. So this one has a heavy battery, which has a bow port and starboard. And then it's a firepower of point blank, and then short, medium, and long. So at point blank, it gets no dice, can't fire up close. When ships are touching. It gets 5 dice at short, 3 at medium. So short is 8 inches, medium is 16, long is 24. And then that's the bonus that you get after you've hit to try and break their armor. So it's best at short range. If you're within 8, it gets +3. So if you're attacking another armor 7 target, every dice roll that equals or beats 7 would do it. So you basically be needing to roll a 4+ to equal and beat armor at short range, a 5+ at medium range, and at long range you need to roll 6s, because that's your power bonus. Your fire arc obviously is your fire arc, and then your ammo is every time you fire, you have to make a command check to see if the munitions have gone out, or if they need to reload, or if something needs to happen to fix your guns. It's not like your guns are breaking, it's that you fire these long engagement bursts, and then you have to check to see if your guns are going to be available next turn to do another one, based on like, just shouted orders and stuff like that. And you typically make a command roll. Your command value for your ships is actually random. This is going to seem sort of normal. It's for before each game you randomly roll for each ship and see what the captain's like. So on a 1, you have 1 command die, and it's a pool. You have 2 on a 2 to 4, 5 is 3, and 6 is 4. It's a bit like leadership. And whenever you need to make an ammo check, you'd roll your command dice, and as long as at least one of them comes up the ammo check you need, you're fine. You keep shooting, otherwise you're out of ammo and you have to repair it like a critical effect. Point defense, you can see point defense is basically your short range thing. So that's your at range 0, you're gonna get 2 dice. Air torpedoes you can fire, so you have 4 of them at speed 19 units per turn. And then the power of them is +2 and they only come out of the bow. And that's your ordnance basically. Then we've got your rules of engagement. So the game turn, initiative phase. Now this is my favorite, I think, actual phase. When you roll for initiative, you roll the pool of your command ship's command dice. You always have to pick a command ship. It's usually the highest value operation ship in the fleet. You roll their command stats, and then, actually it doesn't have to be, I don't think. It's just the one with the highest, the highest armor value is always at the start of the game. And so your commander could suck and be a terrible commander. You roll their pool, but the escorts allow you to have additional sort of like command and control of your fleet, and they bring you intel. So you get to roll your command dice for your highest armor value ship, plus a bonus equal to the number of escorts in your list. And then the person with the most 4+ successes has the initiative for the turn and goes first. And then all of those 4+ successes are put aside into a pool, which you can use later on to spend special orders. And special orders basically allow you to gain bonuses for a ship during the course of a turn. So initiative phase, you're determining who goes first. Movement phase, you're gonna go back and forth moving. Battle phase, you're gonna fight back and forth. And then it's end phase. So when you activate, the player who's going first chooses a ship to activate. A ship can be activated once per movement phase. When activating, they complete their movement phase, including determining the results of boarding, ramming, and collision. And then the other player chooses a ship to activate. So you're gonna go back and forth. So let's say you're gonna activate a ship. You determine your speed. You can use your air screw to change speed. The vessel can increase or decrease speed by a number equal to its lift. So if you're lift 1 and you start off at 2, you could go up to 3. You move them in a straight line. Turn, the vessel can initiate a turn at any point during their move. A turn is a change facing left or right, up to whatever their thing is. They can perform 1 turn for each turning point in its profile, up to the degrees listed. And then change altitude. The ship can then choose to go up and down an altitude band equal to its lift. But you gain, you can rise 1 altitude per lift, but you lose a speed for each one that you gain, because you have to go slowly to go up. And if you go down, you gain a speed as you drop in altitude. And then you complete your move and resolve any boarding, ramming, or collisions if you touch another ship. When you turn, you have to do the following process. Declare you're making a turn. Move the airship at least 2 movement units, so 2 speed. Pivot your airship and place, and then move the airship at least another 2. So if your speed is like 2, you'd go 2 forward. So like you'd probably start around speed 4. You go 2 forward, turn, then go 2 again. And then if you want to turn more than once, you'd have to make another turn. And if you can't move at least 2 movement units with the speed you're going, you can't turn. So when you're going slowly, you just can't turn. Now, if you go above or below your altitude rating, you start to stall. When you stall, you're going to lose altitude every turn until you can restart your engines. And as long as you're in an altitude band you're supposed to be at, then you roll your ship's command dice, and it counts as your move for the turn, and you restart your engines as long as you get a 4+. So a bad commander can you start to go down, 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 down. Now you're sinking, basically. You're not crashing. But if you hit 0, you count as having crashed. And then you can do other things like boarding actions and stuff like that, but they're basically command tests, and then whoever gets the most successes, you win the boarding action, and you reduce the boarding action and cause hits. So once you cause hits by the differential that you got in successes, the other both ships get friction, and then they can break apart later. You can take off and land. And then battle phase, you pick your guns. Now every gun has to shoot the closest thing it can see unless it makes a command check and passes. If it does, it can shoot anything that's in range and line of sight. But if it fails, the gun doesn't shoot at all because your orders get confused and it goes away. So there's a risk to trying to shoot something that isn't the closest target. You then roll your dice like I described earlier. So like a short range gun with 5 dice would roll 5 of them. Every 4+ is a hit. You would mark the number of, you then try and break their armor and roll for damage. And for every point of damage you do, you then put that damage aside. Airships don't carry unlimited ammo, and then you make a command dice to see if you have ammo for the next turn. Point defense weapons automatically cause friction, which is nice. but don't do a lot of damage. They do, however, destroy and reduce the attack damage of things that come after them. So point defense happens when you like get hit by torpedoes and stuff. You'd make a point defense fire automatically, and when you do, if you touch sky mines or like torpedoes and stuff, each one reduces the firepower that you get a success by. So you have 2-point defense. You get hit with a power 4 torpedo. You make your point defense roll, and it reduces, each success reduces the amount of torpedoes that are hitting you when you get attacked. Sky mines, airplanes, which can also attack fighters and bombers. You can blow up ground targets, and you have a damage table for them as well, because there could be like a bombing run in your mission and stuff. And the end phase. Once you get to the end phase, then you actually move your airplanes. It's kind of like the ordnance phase was in BFG. You apply all the damage that you've taken. So the stack of damage dice next to each thing gets applied, and you roll 2d6 each time you resolve a damage point. Most of them reduce your armor, but they can have additional effects too. Like you can light on fire, your bridge can get smashed, it can blow off a weapon, you can lose your turns, or turns can go down by 1, you can reduce your speed. Hull can be breached, which just gets rid of your armor. So the most common 7 to 10 is going to be a hull breach. And as soon as you get to armor 0, you start to sink, which means you start losing air, but as if you were stalled. And you hit the ground, you crash. But if you roll an 11 or 12, you could get exploded. And if you ever get to overkilled, which is you've got negative half your starting armor or less, you just explode. And then when you explode, any craft within D6 inches in this case would take D3 hits of power plus D3, and the model's removed from the board. And then you resolve any stalls or sinks by losing altitude. And if you strike your colors, if you're stalled, sinking, crippled, entangled, or have lost half or more of your starting armor value, you have to make a strike your colors test, which is to flee. The ship rolls its command dice on TN4+, the single success is required to pass. Otherwise, you strike your colors and you just stop fighting. If you fail it, you leave the board as quickly as possible, attempt to land, or nothing if you're unable to act. And once you strike your colors, it's considered destroyed for armor loss until the end of the scenario. And there's no additional benefits to attacking a ship that struck their colors. Basically, they give up. So a low command ship can just give up and go away. And then repair tests and remove friction. Roll the command dice for your so repair tests is each 4+ success can like fix a critical result like a fire or bridge smashed or whatever, but you can't get your armor back. So your armor's still gone, but whatever the problem was gets fixed. And then roll the command dice of your command ship plus any bonus command dice from escorts and add up the results. The number rolled is the number of friction points that can be removed from the board. A player must remove friction points up to the number rolled. Even if it's on enemy vessels, they can't remove fewer friction points than they rolled. Once the active player is done removing friction, the inactive player does the same, and it's possible for all friction to be removed from play. So basically, friction goes away on both sides as people like regain control of their ships. And then commands. There's commands for every single phase. So if the movement commands, you can do things like come about to get extra turns, evasive maneuvers, smoke screens, fire your smoke. And remember, you have a pool of these that you can do for the course of the turn. So every success you got during the initiative phase allows you to do one of these things. But when you issue the command, the ship itself must make a command check. And if they get at least 1 4+ success, then they get to do the command. Otherwise, it's not received and they don't get to do it. Yeah, damage control, reroll your failed repair dice, reload your weapons, can fix one inoperable weapon due to a failed ammo check, or ready air torpedoes, sky mines, bombs, or aeroplanes. And then all the orders of battle. So basically every one of these is going to give you a couple of battleships, a couple of cruisers. So there's 2 battleships here, the Queen Elizabeth and the Iron Duke. And then you got Battle Cruiser, which is the Indefatigable. It wasn't actually a cruiser, it was a battle cruiser, that's why it was so heavy, that makes more sense. And then your armored cruiser like a Minotaur, a Duke of Edinburgh class cruiser, which is just a regular cruiser, Warrior, Arethusa, or active class. Light cruisers, and then the Shaw class frigate, a Bullfinch destroyer, and a Lightning class torpedo escort. And if you look at the operational cost, the standard game is 20 to 25 operational cost. Like just a Minotaur class armored cruisers, operational cost 7. So you could have 3 of those, and then maybe you'd be at 21, like a Duke of Edinburgh. You got 4 ships. That's a standard game size, 25. So 4 ships in the area of operation, no escorts. But even a regular escort, like a Bullfinch class destroyer, is 4. So at 25, you could have like 3 of those for 12. And you got 13 left, so you could do like a Minotaur and a battlecruiser. And so you're looking still at like 4 to 5 ships. Now the French Republic, they got a Courbet class battleship and a Charles Martel class battleship. And then you get a Glory class armored cruiser, a Descartes class cruiser, a d'Iberville class cruiser, a Foudre class cruiser, a Chasseur, and that's it. So you get a destroyer, one destroyer, and then mostly cruisers. And the technological differences are kind of like that. And your command dice rolls are different for each faction too. So like the command dice for the Germans are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Looks like the same for the French. I wonder if anyone has different command. Yep, the British do. They have a minimum of 2. 1 to 2 is 2. 3, 4 is 3, and 5, 6 is 4. So better command for the British, kind of standard for the Germans. The Russians have an even wider spread. 1 to 2 is 1, 3 to 4 is 2, 5 is 3, and 6 is 4. The Austro-Hungarian Empire is a little bit spread out too, as is the Kingdom of Italy. So the British have the best. Funny how I'm pretty sure someone British wrote this book and they have the best command. The United States, yep, they have a 1, 2 to 4 is 2, and then 5 and 6 are 3 and 4. That's cheeky. And the Empire of Japan, 4 to 5 is 3, and 6 is 4. They have a good leadership spread as well. The Ottomans, 1, 2, and 3. It's mostly 2s, but then sometimes 3 on a 5, 6. Never goes to 4. And lots of beautiful artwork. I have to say the artwork in this book is amazing. Like, I love this kind of pastel-y, like, it has a real sort of like Royal British Museum, you know, naval kind of look to it. I'd say that Eric and Phil picked a great artist for this because it really does look like those grand sweeping sort of like naval engagement paintings. The rules for terrain, it's like cloud banks, cloud cover, storms, and then you've got a bunch of different scenarios, either a raid or a battle. And the raids are sort of standard size ones. A battle is a bigger one, and there's 12 scenarios overall. Sorry, 11 scenarios overall, 5 of these. You have attacker and defender, and then complications like a storm, nighttime, cloud cover. And it'll give you your actual game size. And very often there are asymmetrical scenarios in here, which I really like, because a lot of times the attacker-defender thing doesn't make any sense if we both have the same amount of stuff. The whole point is that it's easier or harder for one of the two sides, given like their operational advantage, or like where they're positioned, or how they deploy at the start of the game. I like the idea that you get more or less stuff or certain restrictions based on what you're trying to do. You have a convoy, operations 1, surprise attacks, breakthroughs, and then some general sort of campaign stuff. So how to play a campaign. Setting up a campaign, so like you'd actually have a fleet, and your fleet would have a number of ships in it. When they get destroyed, they're destroyed, so they're gone. So you have a pool of ships to select your operational value from, and I really like that idea, where you build your fleet and then you draw from it, and they all get names and stuff. And once you get your strategic assets, they can be used as sort of a campaign to like repair armor and damage, and you gain them for winning the scenarios. For your 10 armor you kill on somebody, and for sinking an armor 8+ ship, you get an extra one as well. And you get D6 for each of those things that you do. And there's a simple sort of campaign structure for the campaign turns. Looks super fun. And there's some basic experience rules for the ships and what level they get to, and advanced rules for how they go. What they learn. Blowing smoke, dive, 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 getting drilled crews. And then a nice little ad for more Osprey game stuff. Hey, look at that one. There's a cool one. Badgers and Burrows, Gaslands Refueled, Gamma Wolf, Stargrave, Oathmark, and Silver Bayonet all on the back cover. I made the back cover. I'm excited. And that's it. Castles in the Sky, a war game of flying battleships. I like it. It kind of mixes and matches from tons of sort of like traditional battleship and aviation games. To be pretty unique in its own thing. I like the setting. I like this like post H.G. Wells Martian invasion thing. I love the modeling opportunities. So I'll probably get maybe Jay to give us a go with me, and we'll make some ships, or you know, like actually Chase would probably like this too. And do have some little teeny boats. You don't need very many, so this should be pretty easy to do. Just grab one of my sort of sea ship mats, and yeah, play some Castle in the Sky. So big thanks for watching. We'll see you for more of this in the future. Don't mash. Have a good day. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look through the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.